Hello everyone and welcome to the CSE116 Task 0 overview. If you don't know me, my name is Josh. I am one of your TAs for the semester. There are many more TAs. You could see all of us on Piazza. If you look at the office hours schedule, it'll be on that post. You get to see all of our faces there. So this video is just going to be meant to go over Task 0 and just talk about some things that might be confusing about the course in general, just a little bit. But yeah, so we're just going to get right into it and start talking about Task 0. Okay, before we get into actually anything too specific here, I did want to actually just show you the Piazza. I know you guys have probably already seen it, but it is a really useful resource. Your Piazza probably looks like this, which is gross. It looks way better like this. If you want this UI, it's you go to your name and then click on Access Legacy UI. Anyways, they just changed that. But yeah, this is the office hour schedule. I get that a lot of this content in this course could be confusing, so please don't be afraid to come to office hours and ask questions. That's what us TAs are here for, and the professors, of course. But yeah, here's all of our pictures, and yeah, we're all happy TAs and happy to help you guys. So with that being said, we could talk a little bit more about the programming task 0. So first of all, let's just go over again the problem set and game features. By the way, if you guys have not already read the syllabus, which like I know you guys have, you really should, and that is accessed at CSE116.com, which of course you guys already know. But I'm not going to be going over like too much really anything about the syllabus in this task overview video, but I will be bringing up some points just to make sure you guys understand them. So what I want to talk about here is the problem set and game features. So for every task that you will complete this semester, each programming task will have a problem set and a game features component of it. Again, this stuff is in the syllabus, but I'm just going to brief over it again. So the goal of the problem set is to assess your core understanding for whatever material that we're going to give you for this task. Yeah, so some of you guys might notice that assesses is actually a different font and a different color. That's because I don't know how to spell assesses, and I copied it from Google. Also, I realized that after I recorded this section, I was blocking this, which I talk about anyways, but if you're wondering about what that actually says, it's right there, which is also on the syllabus. But yeah, so for each problem set, you must get all 20 LO points. Of course, LO stands for learning objective, and you have to get all 20 points on the problem set if you want to pass the course. And that's going to be true for every single task. So before we even talk about game features, what you need to know is you need to complete the problem set because it'll help you understand the material before you move it into the game features part of the task. And that's actually meant to help you. So once you actually understand the material better, it's going to be easier to apply it to like some bigger game engine functionality. But with that being said, the game features require you to have completed the problem set before you could do anything with them anyways. Like you could look at the task and like do code, but it really doesn't matter because you can't submit them on AutoLab until you've submitted and gotten full points on your problem set. So keep that in mind. You want to make sure you're doing your problem set first and getting that all done. But so yeah, we'll talk about the game features a little bit. So you can't just like do the problem set for each task and call it quits because there are more LO points in the game features part of the tasks. And remember, you have to get all LO points in this course in order to pass. So yeah. After you complete the problem set, you can move into the game feature section, which is going to be more complicated and harder to navigate, I guess, but we have tools to make that way easier for you guys. What the game features really do is it helps you understand how this functionality that you learn is actually used in like real world scenarios and like for actual real game features in the game engine. It's actually really cool. You're going to get to see how the game works and all that if you especially if you do the CU points, which I'm about to get to. So yeah, if you want the A or if you want to get a higher grade in this course, you have to do CU points. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to get CU points on like all different tasks, And there's some more, but you again check the syllabus. It says everything there. I'm really just getting this information from the syllabus. But yeah, so for test 0, there are 50 CU points available, and that's if you implement some features for Minesweeper that we'll get into in a second. But yeah, of course, I'm going to recommend you guys do all of these. Always get the CU points. It really is going to help you understand. Don't just quit at the LO points. You're really going to learn so much more if you really put in the effort to get all of the CU points. So now that's done, we could actually start looking at the doc. All right, folks, this is it. This is the Coding Task 0 doc. So before I get into this, I would recommend, if you haven't read it yet, you should go read it and get some like high level understanding of this. And come back to this video if you're confused. I'm going to explain some things to help you guys understand more. So yeah, again, what I said earlier, you must complete both the learning objectives in the problem set and the game features part. We went over that already. Yeah, so this task is mostly like basic Java features, file input output, and it's going to focus on these topics. You know, it says all this. Also, you see this little link right here. This is for a level editor. You're not going to have to use this at all for this task, and you probably won't have to use it, like have to use it at all, but it's a cool little thing. Your wonderful TA Jack made this, and you can make levels for like a whole bunch of different games in this that this website will probably change, and it's just a cool website. Anyways, let's move on. So I'm going to collapse this segment. The very first thing, as we discussed, is the problem set. And everything you need to know is in here. So first things first, we have to clone or download the repository and get it locally on your machine. So the steps are here, but I'm going to show you guys how to do this. So I'm going to open this link, which is the problem set GitHub repository. And there's a whole bunch of stuff here. If you don't know like what any of this is yet, don't worry. We don't expect you to. All we expect you to know and to do is just to click on this little button. Hello, it's Josh from the future. I'm here to correct a mistake I made, which none of you will ever know about. So there is no mistake. Anyways, when you click on that little button, you're going to then make sure you're selected this HTTPS button right here, and copy this link by clicking copy URL to keyboard. Once that's copied, you can open up IntelliJ. Oh yeah, and by the way, you're going to want to make sure you have the community edition. That's listed on the syllabus as well. Okay, yeah, so in the week 1 introduction to Java, you should already probably have IntelliJ, but if you don't, you click on this link, IntelliJ Community Edition, and just download it.
And yeah, I'm actually going to download it because I have a different version of IntelliJ, and just for the most
And don't worry about all this stuff. You guys won't see that. But you will have an open button here. I'm just going to remove these, so you guys see exactly what you see. Yeah. So you're gonna see all these buttons. Click on the Clone Repository button, and then this URL box, you will paste in that link from what we had before. Then you're gonna pick somewhere to store it. So I'm going to pick somewhere on my desktop or something. Yeah, I'm just going to put somewhere on my desktop, select the folder, and just click on clone. Okay. Yeah, so you have to store it in an empty folder, I guess. So I'm just going to name it something. Probably name it something like problem set 0. You know, something good. And then select that folder. Great. Then click clone. Then it will clone the repository. Make sure you click Trust Project. Hit yes if anything pops up on your screen like mine did. And then we are here. I'll be back. And it's going to open up. And we're going to see like the README, which you should always read the README. It's named very well for that reason. Yeah, so you're going to have all this stuff in here. So one thing that the task doc actually says is to clone the code, and then make sure the source folder is marked as source root. So if you do not know how to do that, I'll show you how to do it. It looks like mine's already marked as the source root, but I'm going to show you how to do it if yours is not. So you're going to want to right click the source folder, and then click hover over mark directory as, and mine's already marked as sources root, so I'm going to unmark it really quick and just redo it. Right click, mark directory as sources root, and then it'll be blue, and then yeah. So just make sure you have that done. Okay, then we're going to start talking about the actual problem set. So everything you need to do, like all the code that you actually need to write for this task, is in this problem set 0 class. Oh yeah, if you see this thing, project JDK is not defined, just click setup SDK, and then this is the most recent one, and if you don't have it, just download it, and then all those errors should go away. But yeah, so this should you should see this problem set 0, which has these methods that are not complete that you have to write for this task. Also, you're going to see 2 other files in here that are very important. So one is the test problem set 0. These contain tests that are already made for you that will test your code to make sure it works. Now in future tasks, you're going to have to write these tests yourself. But for this one, we give them all to you to make it really easy, and to get you familiar with just like typing in Java and like coding some stuff up. A note about this is that there's only 2 methods here, but you're going to have to create the remaining methods yourself, which are also listed on this doc over here. So you know, there's after the first 2 that are already in there, there's sum of digits, best key, word count, sum of lines. So yeah, as for those ones, you're gonna have to write those yourself. But what's worth noting is we do actually still give you tests for all of them. You just have to go to problem set 0, and once you actually have those methods created, you could just uncomment these lines here, which are all the tests for you. So it does say that, but you know, you could miss it or whatever. But make sure you're doing this because if you run your test problem set here and you pass all your tests, then you don't actually you don't have to submit to AutoLab until you pass all your tests. And once you pass all these, you should get all your points, which is a really nice thing. But if you guys don't know how to uncomment something, you just you start where you want to uncomment, hold shift and click towards where the end of where you want to uncomment, and hold control and press the / button on your keyboard. It should uncomment it. You can see I have this error here. That's because I don't have the sum of digits method made yet. So I'm going to recomment this with the same keybind. It's a toggle. Also, I think if you right click, there's like a comment button somewhere. I don't know. I thought there was. Anyways, let's move back. Oh yeah, so the zipper file is how you're actually going to get the zip to submit to AutoLab. You're just gonna run this and it's gonna make it zip, and you submit that zip to AutoLab. Which I'll show you how to do. But yeah, so for the problem set, you're going to be creating all your methods here. It's going to start with average. You could click these little braces if they look like mine do. You click these little braces to expand it out, and you could start typing your code in here. Yeah, so you could start typing your code in here, and write your average method, just like the doc says. So a lot of the stuff should transfer over a bit from 115, just some basic programming logic, but what you really just need to get used to is how to do it in Java. So yeah, there's a really good documentation of everything you need for these methods in the task 0 doc. So really make sure you're reading these through. There's some important notes here that I want to get to. So first of all, when something says in any of these task docs, whenever there's a bullet point, if something's listed, it's usually because it has to be that way. And sure, that you might think, oh, that sounds obvious, but it actually really matters, especially when you're writing tests in the future and when your code's getting tested, because if you don't meet all of this criteria, then you're not going to pass. So for example, in the average method, it says if the input array list is empty, this method should return 0.0. This is an edge case, so you have to make sure you account for that edge case in your code and account for that specific case. So that's true for all of these bullet points. If there's something very specific, you should make sure you account for it that way. But we're not going to go through these methods because you're expected to just kind of do these ones. It's pretty like relatively simple stuff. Don't be worried if you're like stressing about them. Just do your best. And again, if you have questions, go to office hours. It's really good to like get some of these basic Java principles and just like basics down before we move into super not super complicated, just more complicated stuff. So yeah, just this is a really good task to just get used to Java. So that's mostly all this stuff. For word count, sum of lines, this is like file reader stuff, which if you guys are watching this video before the lecture, that's fine. This lecture is going to be done on Friday soon, so you guys are going to get to that. But yeah, the last thing I'll say about problem set stuff is just like show you guys how to run the test. So one way to do it is by navigating over to the file and then just clicking the run button, and it will run your tests. And you're going to see I failed the test because I don't have anything written yet. And it'll tell you what the expected value was and what you actually got. So it's very helpful for debugging your code. And it'll say that for all the different methods. You could click on these little tabs, and very, very useful. So once you pass, these will be green and check mark, and it'll look very pretty, and you're gonna enjoy that. So lastly, I will talk about the zipper and how to actually submit to Autolab. So once I'm in the zipper, oh, sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. One last thing I wanted to mention is that if you say you wanted to just keep working in the problem set, but still wanted to run tests, instead of like navigating over and then pressing this, you could just right-click the test class and click on this run button here, and it will run the tests while you're still in this file. But one thing to keep in mind is that now this button up here is not going to run the current file that you're in. It will run test problem set 0 unless you change it. So even if I'm in zipper, if I press this button, it's going to run the test. But now I will show you the zipper. So I'm going to right click on the zipper and click run zipper.main. It's going to say some stuff here, and then you're going to see right here that it created the zip file for me. So once you have the zip file, you can find it in your directory where your project is. So this is you know, where IntelliJ is looking right now, and you see the zip that got created here. So I'm going to show you guys how to submit to Autolab. Okay, so we're in Autolab, and you guys are going to see the task 0 problem set and task 0 game features. So of course, first we have to do the problem set. Click on the problem set, and right here is where you submit your file for grading. So all you need to do is either drag or search for it by clicking here and searching, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to drag the zip in, click this academic integrity checkbox, and click submit. Okay, it's submitting here. You can see that I'm a good student. I already did the task, but once it'll load like this, and then once it's done, if you guys have used Autolab before, you know all this already, but if not, you'll see, oh, I got 0. So you could click on this little 0.0 here to see your output. You can see it's not giving me very helpful feedback right now, and the reason for that is because I don't have a bunch of methods made that I need to have made, so it's not even able to like grade my stuff correctly. But normally it'll give you a lot of good feedback and stuff like that, but you shouldn't need to see the Autolab feedback for this task, because if you just run your tests and pass all of them, then you should be good to go and you should pass Autolab first try. But yeah, that's how you submit to Autolab. One very important thing though is as you saw with my other submission there, I got 20 points. You need to get 20 points before you're able to move on to the game features part of it. So keep that in mind, and now let's talk about the game features. So for the game features section, here's where we get a little more into the weeds of game development stuff and game engine stuff. So you have to clone another repo / download another repo for this, the code. But you only have to do it once. So unlike the problem sets where for every task you're going to have to download them, you only have to download the game engine code once, and that's it. So it's important that like you set up the source stuff correctly again, but I'll show you guys how to do that again. So we're going to open this GitHub link in a new tab. Click this green button. This damn green button. Alright, I'm back again from the future, and So yeah, once we're clicking on this green button here, we're going to make sure that HTTPS is selected just like last time. Click on copy URL to keyboard. Then we're going to go back to IntelliJ. And now you guys might still be on the problem set 0 repository. That's totally fine. You're just going to want to go to the top left of your screen and click this little main menu button. It's like a little stack of 4 lines or whatever. Click that. Click on new and then project from version control. And here where we have the same screen we had before, we're just going to paste the repository. And so it's actually going to give me a folder here. Perfect. I don't have to go anywhere and find one. And then click on clone. And that's going to open just like the previous one. You want to click on this window unless you want it in a different window, but I'm going to click on this window. Make sure you hit trust project. If something pops up on your screen, just click yes. That's what just happened to me. And then yeah, we are here. Yeah, back to the normal thing. That's all done. And there's another big README. And this is of course something that you should read. It's very useful stuff. It's important. It's a lot, but honestly, like just even like just going through it, it's going to be very helpful, especially this IntelliJ tips section. They will help you a lot through all of your tasks. So it's just good stuff to know. So let's address the elephant in the room. This is a huge project. Like this is ginormous. There's so many files, and some of you might be overwhelmed by that, which I understand. You know, this is probably a lot of your guys' first time working in something like a code base that's this large. So what I'm here to say is to not worry about that, because the reality is 90% of these files you guys aren't even going to have to look at. You're not required to look at like most of this stuff. But the reason we have you work in this game engine is to get you guys somewhat familiar with working in like a big project and adding code to a big project. So yes, it might be a little overwhelming at first, but trust me, you don't need to worry about all of it. We're here to help you for the parts that you're confused on. Everything that you have to do is laid out explicitly in the task document here. Let me get that up here. Yeah, right here. Everything you need to do is laid out explicitly in here. So if you're confused, just always consult the doc. If you're still confused, there's office hours, there's posting on Piazza, there's stuff to do. So don't be too stressed about it. Now, with that being said, I'm going to show you a trick to get to the file that you want quicker. So as the doc says, you're going to have to navigate to the level parser class in the app.gameengine package. So if this was all closed up, you would go down to source, main, Java, app, game engine, level parser. Okay, it's a little bit of a way down, but you'll finally get there, open it, and you'll have all this code. Yeah, so you could go that way and like go down the tree of files and find it, which it might be good to like somewhat get familiar with some of like the structure of this project. But if say you're not there, say I'm in the start game, which I'll show you what this means in a second, but say you're here and you want to get to a file that you know the name of, you just don't know really where it is. All you have to do is press shift twice and like shift. So if I do that, I'm going to press shift and it's going to open this menu. And so I've already did this, so you see level parser here. I've already opened level parser, but if this wasn't here, then all you need to do is type in level parser, or you can see that it comes up right away, and then just press enter. Boom, it takes you right there. And this is true for like any file. So I could, I don't know, type in like just level in general and see like, okay, if I want to get to level class, I could get there instantly. So this is a very powerful tool to get wherever you want in the in this big project very fast. So that's done. One more thing that I actually forgot that we have to do is as with the previous project, we have to make that the source's root again, which we could see that here. Yeah, so make sure that the source folder is marked as source root. Now you can see mine is not source root this time. So I'm going to right click on the source folder, mark directory as sources root. And now that's done, and that requirement is finished. So now that we've talked about just the basics of this file structure, you guys have read the README and all that, we could actually start talking about this method a little bit. So what you're required to write for the learning objective in task 0 is just this parse level method. So again, it has this like funky little brace thing here. So you just click on that to expand it. And now you have all this code that you could write stuff however you want. Now you're going to see a whole bunch of other stuff here, which this stuff is relevant, but you don't you don't need to know how this actually like physically works. You could read it if you want to, but you don't have to know what the contents of these do. You will have to use these methods in this parse level method though. So all of the requirements for this are listed in the task 0 document. It's structured in a way where so right here you have this first number point right here. It explains to you how you're reading these files. Now the files you're reading are going to be structured in a sort of way where this is the first line. This is going to be the contents of the first line. This is going to be the contents of the second line, third line, and then so on. So here, I'll show you guys an example of what the file that you guys are going to parse might look like. Okay, so this is what, so first of all, this is the general structure of like the CSV files that you guys are going to be parsing. So the first line is going to have this information. Again, I'm getting this from the task document here. You can see that like the first line is going to look like that. Second line could look like this. Third line will be some background stuff. And then all the lines following that are going to be some type of object, if there are any. So then I created this this sample. This is what a file could look like, with the exception of this background stuff thing, because the background's a little like weirder one. But you actually don't have to worry about background stuff, as it says here. It's not necessary to understand what like the background stuff does. You have a level.setBackground method to take care of all that, and that's where those other methods come in that you guys can see in here. This read background method, you're basically just going to give this background method the splits of all of the contents from that background line, and it will give you the background object, and it'll take care of it all for you. Very handy methods, and it does the same with dynamic objects and static objects. But the little thing about those is that you actually don't know which one to use after the background stuff line. So what I mean by this is that after background stuff, there could be any amount of static or dynamic game objects lines here that you could have to parse. For this process, you might have to think of some way that you could determine, okay, if this line exists, is it a static or dynamic game object? And once you know which one it is, then you could pass in the contents, whatever is needed, which is the game, level, array list of strings, which is the line splits, like the string splits of that line. You'll know which method to use here after you determine, okay, is it static or dynamic? Once you know, you could call the correct method and get your static or dynamic object back and add it to the level, which is all specified in the doc, but I figured that I'd just mention that real quick. There's not too much more for me to talk about here, because overall this is a learning objective, and you guys should study this stuff and try to parse all of this yourself. But I did just want to go over it a little bit, because I get that it could be confusing, like with all these methods here. This green like comment thing is a Java doc description thing. So what it does is if you hover over this method, it creates this big description. So if you rather read it that way for these things, and if you care what these do, you could always do that, and that will be useful to you. But yeah, you're given a path, and you have to read and parse that file and make it into a level. So that will be your learning objective. And once you do this and the problem set, you are done for task 0 technically. Like you could pass the course, but you definitely absolutely should do the CU part of it, which I'm going to explain. But one last thing that I want to mention about this task is to make sure you read everything very carefully, especially the part where it says this little paragraph here. I'll just say this is very important because you might not be reading the right file if you don't read this carefully. So, for example, if the input path is sample/sample1.csv, the actual file you should read is this directory. So keep that in mind. Think about how you might change that or make that work with your file parsing. But yeah, also the edge cases that we talked about for the problem set, those exist here too. For example, the file does not exist or is empty, you should return null. Always keep in mind, like whenever you see like a point like that, you'll be like, okay, I have to account for that. Like that should be an explicit part of my code that I'm accounting for that. Because if not, you're going to fail a test. Also, that's another thing for this. You'll know for sure if you got this working, if you're passing the tests. So I'm going to navigate there this way, but you could go there the shift way as well. So it's in Java or source Java app tests test task 0. In this test folder, you're going to be creating more tests for future tasks, but for now, you just have this one and it's all given to you. So I'm going to run it by right-clicking and clicking Run Task 0 like we did before. Okay, and I guess I passed something, which is cool, I guess, but I failed like everything else. So all the ones that you have to pass for the LO points are all of these like test parse something ones. So once you pass these, you could run the zipper the same way you did for the problem set. Take that file, submit it to Autolab to get your LO points. Make sure you get the LO points because that's what's necessary to pass the class. But after that, you get to work on the CU point part of this task, which is Minesweeper, which is awesome. You guys should all do that. It's very cool. So I'm going to actually show you guys what the complete version of Minesweeper looks like and what it looks like before it's all done. So first thing you have to do is go to the app.configuration file, which it's right here. But again, if I wasn't there, I didn't know how to get to it, I could just go shift configuration, boom, there. And now the current game is Snake. So if we were to right click and run start game, which is how you actually play the game, it's going to be Snake, which is not what we're working on this task. So I'm just going to close out of that. But we're going to go back to task 0. And we see that we should change the game from sample game, which, you know, it's actually Snake right now, to Minesweeper. So I'm just going to copy this so I get it exactly right and put it right here. And once that's done, I'm going to run start game again, which it's already up here. So I'm just going to press run. And I'm going to see Minesweeper. So when this doesn't work, you're going to see I'm going to click and like, if you guys have played Minesweeper, you know that like I should be getting numbers based on like how many bombs are around here or whatever. So this game kind of sucks right now because like there's no way to like skillfully win this. It's just like kind of complete random chance, and I keep like losing, of course. So we're gonna implement the functionality to actually make this work, which has to do with vectors. And some of you might not know what a vector is, and this might be the first time you've ever hearing of it. So I'm gonna briefly explain a little bit about vectors, but I'm also gonna explain more in a future task video when they're more important. But I'll go over some basic stuff now. Oh, after I show you the complete Minesweeper. So this is the complete version of Minesweeper. I'm going to play the game. And all right, I click somewhere and there's 3 bombs around this area now. You get to see the 3. I'm like, oh wow, that was really easy. I'm not actually going to like fully play it, but you can see how it actually like works now. You can see the numbers, which is like very helpful. So I know that's not about, oh, hey, it looks like I won or something. Great. I actually don't really play Minesweeper. I've never really played it until, you know, this task. So it's cool. Anyways, yeah, that's how this all works. Now you can see these numbers. It's really cool. and you could actually play the game. So you guys are going to make that functionality with this one method that you're going to have to write. So let's navigate there, and we'll explain it just a little bit and talk about vectors. So we have to navigate to apps.games.minesweeper.minesweeper level. So I'm not going to do all that and go down there. I'm going to use the shift trick to get there. So we're required to complete the method getAdjacentVectors, which is currently stubbed out and always returns an empty array list. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go Minesweeper level and press enter. Boom, I'm there. I'm going to ignore everything else because I don't need to know about it right now and find this getAdjacentVectors method. This is all you have to write for this task. So I'm going to expand it, and now we start working on it. Now, again, some of you might not know what a vector 2D is or what a vector is, and that is completely okay. We understand that you guys might not know that stuff. And in reality, like, we're going to be doing some basic things with vectors in this course. But for this task especially, the concepts are extremely simple. All a vector is basically a data structure that lets you store two values. So, well, in this case, if it's a vector 2D, it'll let you store two values. And in our case, those two values will always be here. Another trick I'm going to show you guys is if you hold control and you hover over a class, you're going to actually be able to click down on it and read the contents of it, which you don't have to do, but I think it's neat to just like read up on some things that I'm curious about sometimes. So for example, this vector 2D holds two values, an x, which is a double, and a y, which is a double. That's all a vector is. You know, if you just stopped your understanding there, be like, okay, a vector 2D holds an x and a y, then you're all set. At least for this task, we'll talk more about like some because we're gonna have to do some movement stuff with vectors in the future, and we'll talk about that later. But right now, all you need to know is a vector is a x and a y, which also makes it very handy for like holding grid positions and grid points. So I'm gonna do a little trick here, which is Control Tab, and it lets me go through all my recent files that I've been in and pick one. So I'm gonna go to the Minesweeper level again and press enter. Get back there. So the getAdjacentVectors method wants me to return a list of all vectors adjacent to the vector given to me here. So with this vector variable, it's just called v. If I go v dot, it's going to offer me all these methods. The ones I really care about are like get x and get y. That actually gives me the contents of this vector. Some things to take note about this is the edge cases. Again, remember, look at these pictures. They're very helpful for seeing like, okay, what actually are valid adjacent vectors in different situations. So because this is a CU, I'm not going to go in depth on anything of how to actually make this. This is what you guys need to earn to be able to get a good grade in this class. So I'm going to leave most of that to you, but I do just want to make sure you guys know about some useful tools that might help you make this method. For example, it's mentioned here, but there are some useful things like gameutils.isInbounds. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but there is a gameutils class that provides a lot of useful methods, and one of them for this task is .isInbounds, which you can see takes a level and a vector. Now, if you're like, dang, the level one seems easier, maybe it does to you, but I don't have a level. Well, remember, we are in the Minesweeper level class, which is a level. So we ourselves are levels. So this, which is a reference to ourselves, this level, will work for that parameter. And then technically I could pass in any other vector, but you're going to want to do this meaningfully. The reason that you could pass in a level here is because every level has a bounds. So you could just do the get width is the width bounds. It returns a int and a get height. You know, these are just useful methods to you to make this method. Those are useful ones. One more that I want to make sure you know is one to do with adding vectors. So, you know, you can make a new vector, which I'm just going to show you this new vector by creating a new vector 2D, and then passing in some x. I'm just going to give it like 0, 2. You know, I just did some random vector, x and y. So that's a way to create a new vector. If you want to add vectors, say I want to add the contents of this vector and sort on a new vector. Technically, I could do it like this. Addition vector equals new vector. Then I could do v dot get x plus new vector dot get x, comma, and then do the same thing with the y's, v dot get y, new vector dot get y, and that would be adding the vectors. But we're getting an error here because I accidentally gave 3 arguments here. I meant to do plus. But yeah, that would be adding the vectors, but that's a very long line. It's kind of tedious. So another way you could add vectors very easily is just by using vector2d dot add and then passing in the 2 vectors you want to add. So v comma new vector, and it will return to you the new vector, a completely new vector that's the addition of the 2 parameters you passed through, and it's now stored in here. So those are some helpful methods for you to write this get adjacent vectors method. But basically this is what will make that Minesweeper thing work. It'll let us read the bombs and the radius of some vector, which is really nice. So yeah, make sure you are remembering those useful utilities. Use them if you want. You know, they're there if you think they will be useful to you. It's completely up to you. And again, read all these cases here. They're very important, such as, the order is not important. Another edge case, return an empty array list if the input vector is not within the bounds. There's a lot of points here that will really matter for you to pay attention to if you want to get all your CU points. Also, make sure you're running test task 0 because we also have tests here for you for the CU. Oh, whoops, I ran the wrong thing. Remember, it's right click, run test task 0. You can see we have test get adjacent vectors and some more of those, and very useful. Once you're passing all of these, you should be good. You should have all of your points when you submit to Autolab. Remember, you want to submit this one with the zipper into the game features part of Autolab. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for what I want to talk about in this task video. Again, if you're confused about vectors a little bit, right now they're just an x and a y value. And in the future we'll talk more about them. Right now you don't need to worry about them too much. Please try to do the CU the best you can. It's really good for really honing in on your understanding for all the material you're learning for this task, and it'll make you a much better programmer. And I believe all of you are going to get great points, and I'll pass this task. So yeah, I will see you guys in task 1 later.